Well, thank you so much for staying with us here on the Sportsmax Zone. Trinidad and Tobago head coach Angus Eve has selected a squad dominated by overseas-based players for the upcoming CONCACAF Gold Cup. The 23-man unit was released on Thursday as the Twin Island Republic prepare for their opening game on June 25. Let's take a look now at the full squad that has 17 foreign-based players. So goalkeepers Marvin Phillip, Denzel Smith and Nicholas Frenderup. Defenders Aubrey David, Sheldon Batu, Leland Archer, Kareem Moses, Shannon Gomez, Alvin Jones and Tristan Hudge. Midfielders and forwards Jovin Jones, Daniel Phillips, Ryan Telfer, Ajani Fortune, Kevin Molino, Real Gill, Nabil Hackshaw, Andre Rampersad, Kele Aubrey, Malik Khan, Kadeem Corbin, Levi Garcia and Malcolm Shaw. Here is Angus Eve explaining the construct of the squad.
Looking at the squad that we have here, we just thought that this group was the best group for us to go forward with at this point in time. I think defensively, we've been very good as a team, no matter what group that we put on the park. Because yes, I'm pragmatic. Yes, that's my style. And I'm not Pep Guardiola, but the style is working. We have played 6 games for the season. And we only received 1 goal so far. So the team was picked with that in mind. You know, we have a nice balance of youth, some nice young players who played under 20 and are now graduated, and with a good blend of senior players and some in-between players who we think augurs well for going forward in the future.
Well, the former T&T forward is happy with the camaraderie in the camp.
One of the first things, Sean, that I tried to bring to the group was the passion for Trinidad and Tobago football. If anybody remember me as a player, I always give 110% every single game. And I believe that's how the game should be played. The game is very athletic today. And so we need to have that sort of players, the midfielders who could play back and forth. You know, the spirit, as you said, rightly so, has been fantastic. You know, the mood in the camp has been good. I like to fester that kind of camaraderie. I think for years, we could have qualified for World Cups before 2006. I honestly believe that. But I think that the group wasn't together. And when the group is not together, so I believe that the group is more important than any one individual. And I think we have a very good group here.
All right, joining us on the phone now, Editor-in-Chief at Wired868.com. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Sportsman.
All right, Lissana, so we'll start by asking you your initial thoughts when you saw the team named by Angus Eve and company.
I think it's a pretty strong, balanced team, to be fair. Of course, they always look to see who isn't in this squad. It's
yes,
you know, sort of natural what fans do as well. And Rian Moore would have been one big omission. He did very well for Trinidad at the last Gold Cup. Maybe he was our best player, I think, at the last Gold Cup. And he really fit into the way Angus plays. And he has pretty much been an ever-present up until the Guatemala match. He isn't there. Young Nathaniel James, who played in the under-20 team recently at the CONCACAF tournament last year, he's the top scorer in the domestic league at present. He isn't there either. You know, there are some more kids forgot Noah Powder, for instance, for other reasons, you know. But by and large, you have Levi Garcia is back. He missed his last Gold Cup through injury. Kevin Molino, similarly, is back. Sheldon Batu. And it is just about as strong a team as you could get out there.
Yes, and Lissana, are you surprised by just 6 local-based players being included, or is it something that you saw coming?
I am a little surprised by it. One, Angus as always, you know, someone coming out from the local leagues has always kind of spoke up the local players a lot and seemed willing to give them a try, so to speak. And I mean, our talent pool is also a little bit shallow, you know, to be honest. So I felt maybe there'd be 1 or 2 more players coming from there. But, you know, we have guys like Malcolm Shaw, who's making his debut now, for instance. They decided to take a shot to somebody this pay.
Yes, and what are your thoughts on the group? Lissana?
Yeah.
All right, just ensuring that you're still with us. What are your thoughts on the group that Trinidad and Tobago is drawn in? We're going up against the USA. We have our rivals Jamaica as well, and then one more team, of course, to be announced. How do you think?
And it could be Curacao. For us, it will feel like the group of death, you know. I haven't looked at the other groups to see if anyone is more difficult, but this would do.
Okay, so we're losing Lasana. We're going to try to reconnect with him because, of course, he is very, very close to the Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors team, and we always enjoy his expertise. But in the meantime, Ricardo, I was asking him about the balance, you know, the surprise about having just 6 local players, because it's true. Angus Eve has always been pushing the local players. He's been very vocal about their talents and their capabilities. So I was a bit shocked too, but I do understand. One, the manner in which we got into the Gold Cup, we have to remember that. It came as a surprise. And 2, we're drawn in a group with, as Lasana said, group of death.
Well, I think any group you ended up in would have been a difficult group, because had you not qualified, gotten in, Trinidad and Tobago not gotten in automatically, then they still had an opportunity to get in via the preliminary round, which incidentally started just over an hour ago, so a couple of matches on this afternoon as we speak. So there was always that possibility, and whichever group you ended up in, it was going to be difficult at this stage. This is the Gold Cup. You're talking about the best teams in CONCACAF. You're also talking about Qatar, who will be playing the tournament as a guest team, just beat Jamaica yesterday. So there is that as well. But there is always, especially in the Caribbean, there will always be that debate about locally based players versus the overseas based players. Now, one of the things I have looked at, because for me there are a couple of ways to look at it, Mariah. You can have players who are foreign based, but they have come through the local system.
Yes.
Meaning they would have learned their football through the age group levels in the Caribbean, whether it be in Trinidad and Tobago, whether it be in Jamaica, whether it be in Antigua and Barbuda, or wherever the case might be. And I think those players have to be treated differently and separated when you're speaking about foreign-based versus locally based. And note the use of based. And then you have those players now who would have learned their football elsewhere, who would have grown up in, let's say, England or the United States of America, who would not have come through the systems in the Caribbean. And those you also have to treat differently. Because for me, the players who would have grown up through the systems in the Caribbean should be looked at as local, even though they are now based overseas. Yeah. But I think we have Lasana back.
Yeah. Lasana, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, so I'll move on now to ask you about the balance of the team, because I have a lot of time for defender Sheldon Batu. There's also Kevin Molino, you know, his work has spoken for itself, and then Levi Garcia. So I think on paper, we look good.
It's about as strong a team as we could put forward, I think. The midfield would be the area that is one of the trickier areas for us, right? In the back as well, Aubrey Davis has been a rock for a long time, and we're pretty solid there. I think Trinidad has not been very fluid as a unit for some time, right? In terms of really being able to, let's say, not just dominate, but at least play in a proactive manner, let's say, right? We haven't been doing that. If you look at the midfielders that we have, Andre, other than Hackshaw, you look at Andre Rampersad, Molly Khan, etc. And they don't have a lot of caps. They haven't played much. It's a new system. And you wonder if we may be just a little bit jerky, not as fluent as we would want in midfield again, which could lead to us chasing the ball. So I think the biggest issue for me might be in the middle of the back.
Yeah, Lasana, I watched the Trinidad and Tobago team when they took on Jamaica in 2 matches earlier this year. Of course, a lot of those players, local-based players. But one of the things you picked up from those performances is that defensively is where the strength of this Trinidad and Tobago team is. And even in the defeat to the draw against Nicaragua that followed, again, just one goal let in, but again, they only scored once. And so scoring is an issue. Is it going to be much of the same with this squad in the Gold Cup, where we're going to see mostly defensive-minded performances from this Trinidad and Tobago team?
I think how we have played generally, we haven't had any sort of role for a guy like Kevin Molino, for a real playmaker. The way we lined up against Guatemala, you could kind of see it happening a bit. But then it's still about getting the ball to him and getting players moving off of him to create space. And we haven't really seen the system in work yet exactly, right? We do know that Angus likes to get a lot of guys behind the ball and to serve it, as we did when we drew goalless against Mexico at the last Gold Cup. It is the strength of Angus's team, let's say. For me, I don't think they're as proactive as they could be, even in defending. Just dropping behind the ball is one thing, but you still need to win the ball. And it's harder against more technical teams to do that, right? Against Jamaica, for instance, Jamaica kept going direct a lot of the times. And it just played into our hands because they were making this ball a 50-50 ball, let's say. Against teams that just keep the ball moving a lot. Eventually, it'll challenge our guys' legs. So it'll be tougher to defend, I think, at this level, especially if teams, our opponent try to keep the ball.
Yeah. What is the feeling on the ground as it relates to whether Trinidad and Tobago can get out of the group involving the USA, Jamaica, and of course a qualifier to come?
The last time Trinidad got out of a group in the Gold Cup, I think that would have been like maybe 2015 under Stephen Hart, if I remember correctly. So I don't think there are such illusions really on the ground in Trinidad football at the moment at all. I think for the most part, obviously with some humility, but I think Trinidad football fans right now just hoping to compete. It's a measure of where we have fallen. Trinidad and Tobago has been ranked about 140 in the world for about the last 4 years. The needle hasn't moved much. And that's kind of where we are. So I don't think there's much talk or any talk about coming out of the group. It's more about putting up a good fight and seeing what happens, so to speak.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, Lasana. Thanks very much for talking to us, and we'll chat again soon for sure.
No problem, anytime. Take care.
Yeah, Mariah, by the way, the CONCACAF Gold Cup preliminary round got underway around about 3:30 Jamaica time. That's 4:30 in the rest of the Caribbean. Guadeloupe leading Antigua and Barbuda by 2-0. 65 minutes gone in that game. So not looking good for Antigua and Barbuda. And yeah, that's where Trinidad and Tobago would have been. They would have been playing
today. He
Guadeloupe
saw me
now
in my shirt and he said, "You're not playing today." Break time. Stay with Sportsmax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.